everyone, this is Brittany here with your art fill of the week, and this week I have something fun to try out. I recently purchased some watercolor markers on Amazon. They're Winsor & Newton brand Promarker watercolor markers. I was actually looking at an art store to replace one of my previous colors of Pro markers because I've been using them a lot on Mermaid this month. And then I discovered that they have watercolor markers. And because I've recently got into using a lot of watercolor paint, I was intrigued and I wanted to try them out. So these aren't sponsored, I just thought they would be really fun to try because I have used watercolor pencils before, but I have yet to use watercolor markers. So as you can see, I started out by swatching, and I also tried to see how the swatches blending them together once you put the water on the marker swatch, what that would turn out like, just to see if I could technically blend colors while adding the water to paint. And then I decided to try them out a little bit more on the bottom of that page. And without looking at any reference or anything, I just tried out if I wanted to do some kind of landscape painting with these watercolor markers, how they would fare in that circumstance. And right away I actually had fun with these because you get that bold marker when you put that down, and then when you put the water over it, you get more subtle color. So you can adjust how bold you want your painting to be in certain spots, which was fun to play around with. I'd also just like to note that this is watercolor paper because I'm doing this in my watercolor sketchbook, so this is kind of a more toothy paper that's made for watercolor that I am testing these on. And then I moved on to a full page spread of using these, and I used one of the beach photos that I have to create a beach landscape. And even though I have a set of 12, they're the set of 12 basic tones, even though I have this set of multiple colors, I still felt kind of restricted to the colors I had. And I don't know if in the future I can mix in actual water, like the watercolors that I have, and kind of almost mix and match sort of mixed media watercolor medium usage in these paintings. I'm sure that's possible, and I think that might be where I have to branch out after doing this. But for this video specifically, I wanted to only use these 12 watercolor markers just to show how they worked and just try out different things using them. And I did actually have a lot of fun with these, so I would buy more colors of this type of marker in the future, just to only use watercolor markers, because I did really enjoy using them, actually a lot more than I like using the watercolor pencils. And I think that's because when you use watercolor pencil onto the watercolor paper, it does leave like this texture of the paper even after you've done the swipe of water over the color. And with these markers, you don't have that because it's a marker, so it's already filling in all those grainy tooth feeling parts of the paper. So if you're a watercolor enthusiast, I definitely recommend trying these out. Maybe get a smaller pack if you aren't quite sure if these are something you would really want to use in your artwork. If you have not yet, please leave a like on this video if it was fun for you to see me trying this art supply out. It'll help other people find this if they're kind of looking for videos about this specific type of watercolor marker. Also, I'd like to point out that these markers have two different sides. One side is a brush nib and the other side is fine point nib. So the brush side is going to be more flexible when you're laying down that color, and then the other side is more like a regular marker feel to it, so you can get tinier spots and more finer details in your paintings. And as you're drawing with these markers, I definitely had to check what layer of this landscape I was doing, so that the colors weren't gonna bleed into each other. For example, those trees that I already put the lines for the trunks, I had to stop myself from going too far up into those clouds in the sky because I didn't want to have brown bleeding up into my blue. And also, when I finally did the leaves of the tree part, I needed to have all of that sky completely dry so that then my green also wasn't leaking up into places I didn't want it to be. So that's one thing you have to think about when you're drawing versus like having a sketch down and then using your watercolors over it. You still gotta plan out the process in a way. And you'll see with that towel down at the bottom, I did go a little too quickly and try to paint the towel while the sand was still drying. So that's constantly a thing I struggle with watercolor, but that's definitely, if you're not patient about waiting for stuff to dry in time, that's one thing you have to look out for. But I really did enjoy creating this landscape with these watercolor markers. I hope to try them out in a lot more illustrations and paintings, and I hope you also enjoyed watching me use these, and I hope it helped you out in deciding if this is something you would want to use or try out. And as we get to the final steps of this landscape painting, please remember to give this video a like and also subscribe if you want to see more art videos from me. I try to post weekly, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching!